Sedan Road, BUSA.com/AMG, Mercedes-AMG driving performance.
Listen live or podcast us anywhere and anytime through the free iHeartRadio app. Download and search KFAN. Just another way to listen to the Fan.
I can't wait until tomorrow.
It's time to drop the
puck.
What's going on, Michael? Nice work, man. How are you?
Good. What's going on?
At Russo Hockey via Twitter and Michael Russo, The Athletic, theathletic.com. The doozy that has enveloped the final hour of the 9 to noon show is that, according to sources, Russo Radio writes, Bill Guerin called Zach Parise and Ryan Suter, informing each of them team buying out the remaining 4 years of each of their contracts. 1 o'clock presser today, carried on KFAN. Outside of what you broke and what you've reported, coming up for air, thought of anything else, salary cap related ramifications, the expansion draft? What can you share, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting here the next couple of years. They get $10.3 million of cap release this year, and about $4.5 million next year. But then they go into real cap purgatory in years 3 and 4. And I think the gamble that Billy Guerin was taking, PA, is that they were going to be on the downside of the career then anyway, and they would have to pay him. But this obviously to buy out both, I think that we all thought something was going to have to give, and that Zach would be bought out. But I honestly, the Suter news today came completely out of the blue, and it was obviously a huge decision by the organization. And hopefully, here in about an hour and a half, Bill Guerin will really give his rationale. But when I do the math myself, I mean, I don't see how this is a way to go and, get a Jack Eichel or something like that. Because, I mean, the reality is, again, you're adding $10 million in cap relief this year, but that $10 million goes on for 5 years. And the Wild, have already now committed to having basically $65 million payrolls here in the next couple of years in a flat cap world. And we don't know if it's going to go up. So, we're just still trying to wrap our heads around where they came to the decision to do both. But, as this has been a culture change here in the last couple of years with Billy making this his team. He traded Eric Stahl last year. He traded Devin Dubnyk. He let Mikko Koivu go to free agency. And now he's going to do the same thing with Ryan Suter and Zach Parise, only with a huge cap casualty here the next really 8 years, but especially the next, 3 of the next 4.
Would you describe not only Bill Guerin as a player, but as the general manager, he's fearless and aggressive?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I just hope he has a calculator because that's the biggest thing here.
Okay.
Here in the next little while. But there's no doubt. I mean, he's making this his team. He's going to give it, these spots to younger players as he continues to try to build his team into a cup contender.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Zach and Ryan now. I can guarantee you from corresponding with both earlier this morning, Zach's extremely relieved. I think he wanted a fresh start elsewhere. Ryan Suter's completely stunned and not as gleeful about this. So they're both going to get to go and pick their own spots now in free agency, and life goes on here in Minnesota. Amazingly, the end of the Parise Suter era.
That's A+ information. Thank you, Michael Russo at Russo Hockey via Twitter. Subscribe to The Athletic, as I have for like 4 years, for stuff like this, the below the surface and non-obvious. Now, what I was getting at with Bill is clearly Zach. Let's just put it this way: Zach and Ryan have big opinions, and not only do they make big money, let's just say they have big opinions, and they'll let those opinions be known either on microphones or off. With maybe as part of the equation, maybe Bill was just like, I don't want these guys around anymore, and I don't like things that were said during the Vegas Golden Knights series by either one of them that went public, and who knows what was said behind the scenes when Zach wasn't playing, and maybe he's just like, I want to move on. I don't want these guys around anymore.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. I mean, Ryan didn't say anything really publicly, but obviously Zach wasn't happy throughout the end there. And look, I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes, as you mentioned, stuff that's gone on here the last, 2 or 3 years. And there's no doubt that the relationship with Zach Ryan and the organization has been fractured the last couple of years. And when Billy came in here a couple of years ago, he definitely made it very clear that he was running the organization and not Zach Ryan and Mikko Koivu, and that's the way he's handled things. But from a hockey perspective here, I think they felt like both sides were starting to get on the downside, especially Zach this year. That's just clearly what they showed down the stretch by scratching him or playing fourth line minutes. And I think that they just felt like Ryan was going to head down that path as well. I think the big thing here, though, to buy out Ryan, what shocks me mostly about that is, and we saw it with Duncan Keith yesterday, even though he makes a couple more million than Ryan. The reality is that there are ways to get out of these deals eventually in trades, but to do that, you probably have to keep Ryan for a couple more years. And I just think that Bill Guerin wants to open up spots to go get different players or younger players, and wanted to clear that out of the locker room and on the ice as well. So, again, it's we'll have to see what Billy Guerin says later on today. And I'm sure he'll have some good reasons for this. But right now, obviously, it's still pretty fresh.
So, in your correspondence with Ryan Suter, if he is shocked and/or flabbergasted this has happened, can we fairly take the leap that he was not offered a trade and an opportunity to waive the no trade?
Yeah, I mean, the way I understand it, Billy did not ask either Zach or Ryan to waive their no moves for expansion. So there have been some people that have been, some conjecture that I've seen in my mentions of people saying, well, they must have refused to waive their no move, and this is Billy's reaction. But the way that I understand it from talking to Ryan today and the way I understand it from Zach is that they weren't asked that this was more of a, let's clear this out, start fresh here. And it's sort of been where this has been going, with Bill the last couple of years, as I mentioned, with obviously what he did with Stahl, Koivu, and Dubnyk as well, and here he takes it to the next step in an absolute bombshell this morning.
So with Michael Russo, The Athletic, 4 minutes to go on the show. Thanks, by the way, for joining us. I know you're very busy. Got a press conference in an hour and 12 minutes with the Wild, talking about Parise and Suter. With the expansion draft, better not lose Soucy now, right?
Yeah, well, they probably will. I mean, what this is going to allow them is to protect Dumba, and obviously Spurgeon and Brodin, and up front, I've got to think they'll protect Stern now over Rask. And so, yeah, I mean, I would think that Soucy or Kakkonen are probably going to be the most likely to be taken by Seattle. It would be a coup and a half if somehow he can make some sort of move to get them to take Victor Rask, and you free up another $4 million to allow them to do business.
Yeah.
I think that'd be huge. But, my gut says that when you have a 2.75 mobile, big left shot defenseman like Carson Soucy, that's probably going to be the guy that Seattle would take. But, Kakkonen is going to be appealing to them too, a 24-year-old goalie under team control also for a while, a lot more, has obviously a lot of upside, played well for the Wild for most of this season until he kind of fell apart there at the end. But yeah, that's the other byproduct of this move that Bill made today, and that is that they all of a sudden free up 2 more roster spots to protect in expansion.
Well, I read this at The Athletic recently. I don't know if you wrote it or somebody else, but the way the Vegas Golden Knights handled the salary cap and what they were taking on and what they were giving up subsequently has kept them good, and they're not going to lose a player to the Kraken. But the salary cap ramifications with this expansion bid, I mean, it's massive, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, it's sorry, I'm just getting like bombarded by text messages right now, but you're right. I mean, I think that this like the Minnesota Wild have been, probably more so than any other team, PA, affected by expansion. And obviously, I think that I saw Chuck Fletcher was quoted today about how Vegas, how he's had a lot more time to prepare for Seattle than he did for Vegas. I think that was that's a weird comment to make. I think that they had a lot of time to prepare for that, and I think they just probably swung and missed in that deal and giving up Alex Tuch. But here, I think Billy, doesn't want to make some significant moves with Seattle. But he has the ability now to protect 2 extra guys. He never wanted to lose Dumba. He made that very clear. But what was interesting, PA, just thinking a little bit out loud here, is that the last couple of weeks, after really being pretty adamant for weeks that he wasn't going to buy out Zach Parise, he sort of started to come off of that. And so that's why lately I've been writing about a Parise buyout. I just never even, fathomed or contemplated that he would do both at the same time, just because, we've written so much about cap recapture and how that could affect this organization long term. Well, essentially they just did that today and took on, in years 3 and 4, $15.5 million of cap penalties and, maybe a little less. But it's just, I think it's about 14.6 actually, but it's going to be interesting in years 3 and 4 if this team all of a sudden continues to excel and they want to go out and get players, or Marco Rossi needs to be paid, or Matt Boldy needs to be paid. What the cap adds up to in a couple of years, and if these Parise and Suter buyouts, or the Brodin and Spurgeon long-term contracts, that those really start to affect this team. But looking at cap friendly right now, man, it just looks like it's going to get really hairy here in years 3 and 4. So we'll again see what Billy says today, and the reason that he would, obviously choose both rather than one.
If the Wild couldn't protect Soucy and make Greenway available, do you sense 4 and 4 instead of 7 and 3?
No, they'll go 7-3-1 now, definitely. Guys like Foligno and Hartman, they want to protect those guys. And the other thing is now they have the cap space that you protect Dumba, Brodin, and Spurgeon. If you do happen to lose Soucy, they have the cap space in a year where there actually are a lot of quality defensemen out there in free agency that you can go pick up 1 or 2 of them. So I think that's the way to go, is to go 7-3-1.
Lastly, 30 seconds. Parise off this retiring is minus it. The no is minus 250. The yes is plus 220. Which way do you bet?
Wait, say that again.
Do you think Parise retires or not?
No. He's definitely. I think he's static today. I think he's going to become a free agent. I think he's looking forward to that.
I get it. I get it. But I mean, nearing the end of his career, physically speaking, if the body breaks down and and he's not as fast as he used to be, and I love Zach, man, and I hope he succeeds wherever he goes. But I mean, I don't think it's the wildest thought in the history of the world.
Well, I can tell you that when he found out that he was bought out today, he was on the ice and working out. So he's not going into this offseason thinking that he's done. And if you know Zach, I mean, I think that he is just looking forward to getting to July 28th and signing with another team. And we'll see what he gets and how much and where he can go. But I think Parise and Suter will have opportunities out there in a couple weeks here.
You just put me in one of these.
Box.
Nice job with that box. All right. Thank you for joining on short notice. Can't wait to see you in person. Have a great day.
All right. See you. Take care.
Russo Radio, The Athletic, theathletic.com. The Minnesota Wild have bought out the final 4 years of Zach Parise and Ryan Suter. Oh, thank heaven for number 11 and number 20, both done with the Minnesota Wild. Press